I have watched so many awesome What If Star Wars videos on YouTube and have thoroughly enjoyed many of them, which is part of why I decided to make my own Star Wars What If series. I think we love these what if stories so much because we think in our minds, what would happen if Mace Windu survived? Then we see if anyone on YouTube made a video about that, and we can see their interpretation of what they think would happen. But I know I am not alone in watching one of these videos and thinking that things would turn out much differently than the way they are describing. That's why I think this idea, which will allow us all to be able to contribute to a what if Star Wars story and add our own unique interpretation of how we think things would happen, is such a fun idea. Here's my plan for this. I'm going to give us a few different potential Star Wars what if stories to kick things off that you can then continue. You would continue it by commenting what you think should happen next, titling your comment with Part 2, and then people could respond to that comment with Part 3, so on, so forth. Or, if you want to create your own kickoff to a what if scenario that is different from mine, you could create your own comment and title it Part 1, and if people like it, they can reply with Part 2, so on, so forth. So then what happens next is I would make a few different kinds of videos showcasing your comments. The first kind of video would be me choosing one of these comment reply stories and then showing screenshots of that comment reply story, reading them off, and then I would add my own continuation of what I think should happen next. Then you could watch that video and add your comment of what you think should happen next once more. Rinse and repeat, thus creating a cycle that allows us to build off each other to create these stories. The second type of video I could theoretically make is just showcasing several of these different comment reply stories without actually adding my own continuation, just to show off some of the cool stories you guys have thought of. Just in case so many people comment on this video with ideas for story continuations that it wouldn't be feasible to add my own continuation to all of them. Please, that would be awesome. If hundreds of people commented what they think should happen next, or with their own story ideas, that would be awesome. This could even be done as a stream, potentially. I have 3 different possible what if stories for you guys today. What if story 1. What if Anakin chose to stay on Tatooine, Qui-Gon survived, and both he and Obi-Wan left the Jedi Order to train Anakin in the ways of the Force on Tatooine? I'm going to read the synopsis and then the opening kickoff for the story, and then I'm going to share the other 2 what if stories. Again, you do not have to use these. You could comment your own unique start to a what if, and if people like it, they can add to it. And I will probably make a video showing off your comment and the replies to it, even if it doesn't use one of my ideas. These are just here to give you some inspiration in case you can't think of something. So here's the synopsis. In this scenario, Anakin decides not to leave his mother to a life of slavery, but resolves to stay with her and free her. Qui-Gon eventually survives his duel with Darth Maul, probably due to him and Obi-Wan not being separated in this scenario, and he and Obi-Wan decide to leave the Order to train Anakin, because Qui-Gon knows and believes he is the chosen one, and they are scared of Anakin turning to the dark side because they can sense his fear. This version of Anakin could more fully lean into his love for engineering and piloting and continue to do things like pod racing, tinkering with machinery, making more droids, repairing ships, etc. One of the main conflicts about this story would be Anakin wanting to free his mother and all the other slaves and put an end to slavery on Tatooine, and using all his skills in engineering and piloting, as well as his knowledge of the Force to do so. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan could also eventually decide to help Anakin in this cause, and help Anakin to create his own lightsaber. Another one of the conflicts would be about Darth Sidious trying to make plans to recruit Anakin to the dark side, and he creates some sort of plot to get close to Anakin, perhaps because Anakin eventually starts a political campaign alongside Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to end slavery throughout the galaxy, and Chancellor Palpatine decides to be personally involved in this campaign as a means to get close to Anakin and try to turn him. Alright, here's the opening. After winning the pod race and upon hearing that his freedom was won, Anakin was ecstatic. Upon hearing that his mother was not freed, however, Anakin felt a sudden sadness shock through him. But the prospect of freedom was so incredible, and knowing that all his mother wanted was for him to be free, Anakin at first would lock his feelings of sadness away as much as he could. But later on, when he was about to leave, that feeling of sadness became overwhelming, and he ran back to his mother for one last embrace. He told her he couldn't do it, but she reassured him, and upon asking her if he would ever see her again, she asked him, what did his heart tell him? In this moment, he could feel, somehow, like he really did know that he would see his mother again. And yet, something felt wrong. He didn't know how to explain it. His excitement did not disappear, but he couldn't feel truly free, knowing his mother was not. He instead simply embraced her. Shmi hugged him back, and despite her words of reassurance and encouragement to go and be free and become a Jedi, little Annie would simply not let go. Eventually, Qui-Gon walked up to Anakin and his mother, telling him that it is time for them to leave. Anakin looked up at Qui-Gon, tears in his eyes, telling him that he would not leave his mother. He would free her, no matter how hard it would be. He would free all the slaves on Tatooine, no matter how long it takes. He sincerely apologized to Qui-Gon before embracing his mother again as he cried. Shmi apologized for Anakin behaving like this, and tried to promise Qui-Gon that Anakin was just feeling emotional and would soon change his mind. But Qui-Gon was wise enough to know the difference between an emotional outburst that had no foundation in true resolve and the difference between a true resolve that was only strengthened by emotions. As Qui-Gon realized that Anakin would most likely not leave this planet, he considered if simply leaving him here was the right decision. Would it really be right to leave the Chosen One here and take no role in helping him discover his destiny to bring balance to the Force, simply because he did not feel ready to leave his mother to a life of slavery? Okay, now it's up to you. Will you continue this story? You can do so by commenting below. Do it. Or don't do it. If you want to do something different. If you want to make your own story, or if you want to do either story 2 or 3. So both of story 2 and 3 are possible alternate plots for episode 7. But they are not just slight reinterpretations. They're not just rewrites of The Force Awakens. There's something totally different. So, for What If Story 2, the synopsis is: as Jedi Master Luke Skywalker rebuilds the Jedi Order, and word throughout the galaxy spreads of the return of the Jedi, a faction of Mandalorians decide to take revenge against the Jedi for having massacred them eons ago. Several of the Mandalorians secretly are Force sensitive, some training to use the power of the dark side, along their Mandalorian technology and fighting style. This could involve characters who are Mandalorian spies sent to infiltrate the Jedi Order and learn their secrets, learn their fighting style, and bring that info back to the Mandalorians. You could have a schism where one of the spies feels very conflicted, being taken in by the Mandalorians as a child and wanting to be loyal to them, but also feels tempted to turn coat and help the Jedi instead, because he or she knows this is wrong. This could be the other main character alongside Luke. For What If Story 3, the synopsis is that the mystery of the species of Yoda will slowly be revealed, as well as the secrets about the nature of the Force, midichlorians, and the Whills themselves, and somehow the species of Yoda is inextricably tied to these secrets. It is discovered that just as the Force is indeed alive and has a will of its own and wants balance because the Force is comprised of the midichlorians and the Whills, there are some midichlorians and Whills who want the Force to be knocked out of balance by twisting it into the dark side. A member of Yoda's species worships these dark midichlorians and Whills and becomes the first of Yoda's kind to fall to the dark side. His goal is that he wants everyone to turn to the dark side. He wants the Force itself to be totally tipped to the scales of the dark side, because he worships the dark side. He does not just want power and to be in charge like the Emperor did. He will probably formulate his own cult dedicated to this cause. It is up to Jedi Master Luke and the new Jedi Order to fight against that dark side cult in the ultimate battle between the light and the dark. Now, since both of these what if stories are alternate plots for episode 7, I have given them both the same initial opening, which I will read now. Jedi Master Luke was now in his 50s. He walked through the Jedi Temple that was constructed especially for the new Jedi Order, located on Yavin 4. He saw students of all ages and species training together, learning the ways of the Force. Luke thought back to that moment after the Battle of Endor, the destruction of the Emperor and the redemption of his father, when he saw the Force ghosts of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin Skywalker, his father, free of the chains of Darth Vader. As he heard the festival celebration of the Ewoks, he knew that all around the galaxy, other planets must be celebrating, or would soon be celebrating, the fall of the Empire and the end of its tyrannical oppression. As he looked upon the Force visages of his masters and his father, and heard the celebration, it felt like the galaxy was born anew. It gave him a unique sense of freedom, a new hope, a feeling that felt universal, as if all living beings could feel it. It was the living Force, now, for the first time in a long time, finally in balance. Now that the Sith dictators of the galaxy were finally put to an end. Not just the inhabitants of the galaxy felt free, but the very Force itself felt free. He vowed to never forget this electrifying and fresh feeling that he felt in that moment, and to carry that feeling into the new Jedi Order he would build, to ensure, to the best of his abilities, that that feeling would always permeate the Jedi Order, so that from that point on, as stewards and keepers of the peace, the Jedi would forever know what they fought for, and that the light really was far more preferable than the dark. If you have made it this far in the video, you have my sincere gratitude. Now, you can choose to continue based upon this opening I just read. And you can either choose to go with the plot of the dark side cult led by a member of Yoda's species, or with the Mandalorian War, the new Mandalorian War against the Jedi, or the Anakin one I read earlier, or something totally new and original that you want to do. Now, I'm not going to give up on this idea of collaborative storytelling. I think it's such a fun idea, and I haven't been met with as much enthusiasm as I've been hoping, but I'm not going to give up on it. I think it's really cool, and I think us collaborating together, as me as the content creator, you guys as the viewers, to create stories, I think that sounds so cool. So please give it a shot. Please leave a comment. It doesn't have to be long. If we work together, we can make a cool story, and I look forward to featuring the comments that you make and the stories you make in future videos. So catch you guys on the next one.